In the last two videos, I talked a lot about consciousness. I talked about the strange fact that experience exists. I talked about the possibilities that some effects might have causes we cannot directly observe. And I questioned whether explaining behavior is really the same thing as explaining consciousness. But there is a possibility I haven't seriously addressed yet. To be honest, maybe it is because it is the most convincing one. Maybe consciousness simply emerges from information processing. No hidden layer, no missing domain. No deeper mystery. Maybe sufficiently complex systems eventually become conscious. That idea seems completely reasonable. And when we look at life on Earth, it appears to be true. Because a worm seems different from a mouse, seems different from a dog, seems different from a chimpanzee, seems different from us. And of course we cannot directly measure consciousness. We cannot step inside another mind and compare experiences. But most people intuitively feel that there is some kind of continuum. Not a switch, but a spectrum. As nervous systems become more sophisticated, experience seems to become richer. And if that intuition is correct, a very natural conclusion follows. Perhaps consciousness grows together with information processing. More computation, more conscious. Simple and elegant. And perhaps even correct. But there's something about this picture that keeps bothering me. Because if consciousness really grows with computational sophistication, then we should expect to see that pattern elsewhere, not just in biology, but in the systems we build ourselves. Imagine you are a scientist in 1965. You believe consciousness emerges from information processing, not as a philosophical possibility, as a fact. The future seems obvious. Computers will become more powerful. The information processing will increase, and consciousness will gradually reveal itself. Maybe not immediately, maybe not dramatically, but surely the mystery will begin to fade. 10 years pass. Computers become thousands of times faster. They begin solving calculations that once took entire rooms of people. The mystery remains. Another decade. Personal computers arrive. Millions of people suddenly have access to machines that would have seemed unimaginable in 1965. The mystery remains. Another decade. Machines begin defeating the world's strongest chess players. Tasks once considered the pinnacle of human intelligence suddenly become automated. The mystery remains. Another decade. The internet connects billions of computers. Machine learning starts recognizing faces, understanding speech, and driving experimental vehicles. The mystery remains. And then another decade. Artificial intelligence generates realistic images, writes software, translates language almost instantly, passes professional exams, holds conversations that would have sounded like science fiction only a few years earlier. These systems can discuss consciousness itself. They can explain the hard problem, debate philosophy, write essays. And somehow, after all this progress, the question still sounds exactly the same as it did in 1965. Is anybody there even? Maybe the answer is yes. Perhaps today's systems are already conscious. Perhaps future systems will eventually force us to abandon the distinction altogether. I think that possibility should be taken seriously. But regardless of the answer, something about this story is strange. Because the prediction seemed so straightforward. If consciousness emerges from information processing, then increasing information processing should gradually make conscious less mysterious. And yet many people feel the mystery has barely moved at all. The systems became more intelligent, more capable, more impressive, but not obviously more conscious, at least not in the way many expected. And that raises a question. Have we been focusing on the wrong variable? Imagine someone trying to build the fastest car in the world. Every year, they improve the engine. More horsepower, more fuel. The machine becomes increasingly impressive. The numbers become absurd. The engineering becomes extraordinary. There is only one problem. The car has no wheels. At first, nobody notices. The engine is fascinating. Everyone is focused on the horsepower. And besides, next year's version will be even better. So the engine gets bigger, and bigger, and bigger. But the car never moves. Not because horsepower doesn't matter, it clearly does. But because horsepower was never the missing ingredient. And sometimes I wonder whether we may be making a similar mistake. Not because intelligence is unimportant. It clearly matters. But what if intelligence is not the thing that turns a physical system into an experiencing one? What if intelligence is the engine, while something else plays the role of the wheels? Because if that were true, a surprising amount of what we observe would suddenly make sense. It would explain why increasing capability does not automatically dissolve the mystery. It would explain why a modern AI can outperform humans in many tasks and still leave us uncertain about whether there is any experience behind the performance. And it would explain why even a tiny biological organism can feel fundamentally different from a machine that vastly exceeds it in computational power. Not because the organism is smarter, but because it may possess something the machine does not, something essential. Now, I'm not claiming that this is the correct answer. I'm not claiming that today's AI systems are unconscious. And I am certainly not claiming that artificial consciousness is impossible. My point is much simpler. If we have spent decades increasing the horsepower and the mystery remains, then perhaps it is worth asking whether horsepower was the whole story. Perhaps the real question is not how intelligent is a system, but what kind of system is it? Because you can keep improving a Lamborghini forever. You can double the power, triple the power, make it louder, faster, more sophisticated, more impressive, but if it has no wheels, then it's not really a car. At least not in the sense that matters. And if our artificial systems are missing some equally fundamental ingredient, then no amount of additional capability will solve the problem. The engine can keep improving forever, while the machine itself never actually leaves the starting line. What if the crucial difference between living systems and artificial ones is not how much computation they perform, but what they physically are? What if that possibility is even worth considering? Then we need to ask a deeper question. What is it about living systems that makes them so different in the first place? And this is a question we're gonna try it. We're gonna try it next time, but we're gonna fail, I promise. But it will be very interesting. I hope to see you there. Auf Wiedersehen.